They say a woman in love can ignore 1,000 warnings, but it's the 1,001st that breaks her. For Amara, that moment came on a Tuesday evening when she found her husband's second phone hidden in the bathroom cabinet, filled with messages to women whose names she didn't recognize, promises he'd never kept to her, money she didn't know he had. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began. Amara lived in Abeokuta, a small bustling city where everyone knew everyone's business, and secret had a way of traveling faster than mercy. She was the kind of woman people turned to look at twice. Smooth dark skin that caught the light like polished mahogany, eyes that sparkled with intelligence, and a figure that made her the subject of both admiration and envy. She worked as a receptionist at a telecommunications company, and though the pay wasn't much, she carried herself with dignity. That's where she met Tunde. Tunde was a junior manager, always dressed in shirts that were pressed just a little too sharp, shoes that gleamed a little too bright. He had the kind of charm that felt like sunshine, warm at first, but if you stood in it too long, it would burn you. He pursued Amara with the intensity of a man who'd found treasure, showing up at her desk with small gifts, sending her credit on her phone, writing her notes that made her heart flutter. Her friend Ngozi had warned her, "Amara, that man's eyes wander. I've seen him looking at other women even when you are right there beside him." But Amara laughed it off. Every man looks, Ngozi. It doesn't mean anything. And the way he speaks to the waiters, to the security guards, like they're beneath him, Ngozi pressed. He just knows what he wants. That's confidence, Amara defended him. There were other signs too. The way Tunde would fly into sudden rages over small things, burnt rice, a missed call, a button that came loose from his shirt. The way he would shower her with affection one day and go cold the next, leaving her scrambling to understand what she'd done wrong. The way he constantly mentioned her beauty as if it was her only value, her only currency in their relationship. But Amara was in love, and love, she believed, could smooth out rough edges. They married in a small ceremony that Tunde's family barely attended, claiming they had other obligations. Amara's mother held her hand at the registry and whispered, "My daughter, marriage is not a prison. If the door becomes a wall, you can still find a window." Amara smiled and squeezed her mother's hand, certain she would never need to find that window. For a while, things were good. Tunde was attentive, loving. They rented a one-bedroom apartment in a quiet part of the city, and Amara made it into a home. Curtains she sewed herself, plants she watered every morning, meals she cooked with care. She even started a small side business selling recharge cards to supplement their income. Then, Amara got pregnant. This is Tales by V African. Please hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, as it will help you to be notified when we post our daily stories. The pregnancy was hard. Morning sickness that lasted all day, swelling feet, exhaustion that settled into her bones. Her body began to change, expanding in ways she hadn't anticipated. Tunde's attention began to shift. He stopped touching her belly to feel the baby kick. He stayed out later. He complained about money constantly, even though she still worked up until her 8th month, still contributed to the household, still made sure there was food on the table. When baby Chisom arrived, Amara thought things would get better. She thought the sight of his daughter would soften him, bring back the man she'd married. Instead, it got worse. Her body didn't bounce back the way society said it should. The weight clung to her hips, her stomach, her thighs. Stretch marks mapped new territories across her skin. She was exhausted from sleepless nights, from breastfeeding, from trying to keep the house together while recovering from childbirth. She returned to work after 3 months because they needed the money, strapping Chisom to her back, dropping her at her mother's house every morning before heading to the office. Tunde began to speak to her differently. "When are you going to lose that weight?" he'd ask, disgust dripping from his words. "You've let yourself go." She tried, she really tried. Between working, caring for the baby, cooking, cleaning, and managing the household, she tried to find time to exercise, to make herself beautiful for him again. But there were only so many hours in a day, and most of them were already spoken for. Then the cheating started. Or rather, that's when she could no longer pretend it wasn't happening. Strange perfumes on his clothes, late nights that became all-nighters, messages that lit up his phone at 2 a.m. And when she confronted him, he turned it around on her. "What do you expect?" he shouted. "Look at yourself. You're fat, you're tired all the time, you don't take care of yourself anymore. I'm a man, Amara. I have needs." The first time he hit her was a slap across the face during an argument about money. She had asked him to contribute more to the household expenses, told him she couldn't keep carrying everything alone. He accused her of nagging, of being ungrateful, and when she stood her ground, his hand connected with her cheek so fast she didn't see it coming. He apologized immediately, crying, begging her forgiveness, promising it would never happen again. She believed him because she wanted to believe him, because the alternative was too painful to accept. But it happened again and again. Meanwhile, Tunde's lifestyle expanded. He clubbed every weekend, posted photos with women who were everything Amara no longer felt she was: slim, carefree, beautiful. He bought new clothes, new shoes, spent money on drinks and entertainment, while Amara struggled to pay the rent, to buy food, to keep Chisom in diapers and formula. She confronted him about the money. "Tunde, I paid the rent this month. I bought all the food in this house. I bought Chisom's things. What are you contributing?" He laughed, a cruel, cutting sound. "Is that not what you should be doing? You are the mother. And besides, who would want to come home to you, to this?" He gestured at her body with contempt. "At least those other women know how to take care of themselves." Something in Amara cracked that day, but it hadn't broken yet. That moment came weeks later with the second phone in the bathroom cabinet. She scrolled through the messages with shaking hands. Promises to leave his ugly fat wife, complaints about her, intimate photos exchanged, money transfers, amounts that made her gasp because they were paying rent late. Chisom needed things and he claimed they had nothing. But what broke her wasn't the cheating or even the lies. It was a message to a woman named Stella. "Don't worry, baby. Once I get my hands on her mother's land, I'll divorce her. She's just a placeholder anyway. I married her when she was beautiful, but now she's nothing." Amara sat on the bathroom floor, Chisom sleeping in the next room, and she wept. Not just for the betrayal, but for all the warnings she'd ignored, all the signs she'd explained away, all the times she'd made herself smaller, quieter, more accommodating, thinking that love would be enough. Her mother found her there an hour later. Without a word, she helped Amara pack 2 bags, one for her, one for Chisom. "Come," was all she said, and Amara followed. The first week at her mother's house, Amara barely left the bed. Depression wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. She felt worthless, ugly, used up. Tunde's words echoed in her head. Who would want her now? A single mother, overweight, broke, with nothing to offer? But her mother wouldn't let her stay in that dark place. "Amara, listen to me. That man took your light and told you it was darkness. He took your strength and called it weakness. But I know who you are. I raised you. You are not what he said you are." "But Mama, look at me," Amara whispered. "I am looking at you. I see a woman who worked full-time, raised a baby, paid rent, bought food, and survived a man who was trying to destroy her. If that's not strength, I don't know what is." Something stirred in Amara. A small ember of the woman she used to be, the woman she could become. She started small. She had always been good with her hands, had learned to sew from her grandmother. Her mother's old sewing machine sat in the spare room, dusty but functional. Amara cleaned it, oiled it, and began to sew. At first, it was just simple things: children's clothes for Chisom, repairs for neighbors who paid small amounts, but word spread in the community. Amara was good, she was reliable, she was creative. She started taking orders for traditional wear, for church outfits, for special occasions. The money was slow at first, but it was honest, it was hers. 6 months after leaving Tunde, Amara took a bold step. She used her savings to rent a small shop on a busy street. She painted it herself, bright yellow and white, and hung a sign: "Amara's Touch, Bespoke Tailoring." Ngozi was her first customer, ordering 3 complete outfits and telling everyone she knew about Amara's talent. Orders began to flow. Amara worked late into the nights, but this exhaustion was different. This exhaustion came with purpose, with pride, with progress. She also started taking care of herself, not for anyone else, but for herself. She joined a small gym in the neighborhood, going 3 times a week, not to become small, but to become strong. She cut her hair into a bold, short style that made her feel free. She bought clothes that fit her body as it was, not as she thought it should be. Chisom grew into a bright, curious toddler. Amara enrolled her in a good school, bought her books, spent evenings teaching her letters and numbers. She was determined that her daughter would grow up knowing her worth, never settling for crumbs from a man's table. 2 years passed. Amara's business flourished. She hired 2 apprentices, expanded her shop, and started selling her designs online. She was featured in a local magazine as a woman to watch in small business. She had moved into her own apartment, not big, but hers. She paid her own bills, made her own decisions, answered to no one but herself and her daughter. She had also learned to be alone without being lonely. She had friends, her mother, her work, her child. She had built a life that was full and rich and entirely hers. Then Tunde appeared. He showed up at her shop on a Wednesday afternoon, looking nothing like the man who had once thought himself too good for her. His clothes were worn, his shoes scuffed. The confidence had drained out of him, leaving behind something hollow and desperate. "Amara," he said, his voice cracking, "please, can we talk?" She looked at him calmly, her hand steady on the fabric she was measuring. "What do you want, Tunde?" "I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. I've been a fool. I lost my job, things fell apart, and I realized that you were the best thing I ever had. You were always there, always strong, always holding everything together, and I was too stupid to see it." "I see. The women I was with, they left me the moment the money ran out. Stella, all of them, they wanted nothing to do with me when I couldn't pay for drinks or take them shopping. They called me a broke loser and blocked my number." He laughed bitterly. "But you stayed even when times were hard. You walked, you sacrificed, "I was being used," Amara interrupted quietly. "There's a difference between partnership and exploitation, Tunde. I didn't stay because I was strong. I stayed because I had convinced myself that love meant suffering, that I had to earn your respect, your fidelity, your basic human decency. I know, but I've changed. I'm going to counseling, I'm looking for work, Tunde." Her voice was firm now. "Do you know what the saddest part of our marriage was? It wasn't the cheating. It wasn't even the hitting. It was that you made me forget who I was. You took a woman who was whole and convinced her she was broken. You took someone with light and convinced her she was darkness. And the worst part, I believed you." Tunde stood there for a long moment, then slowly turned and walked out of her shop, out of her life. 3 months later, Amara met Chidi at a business networking event. He was a civil engineer, soft-spoken and kind, with eyes that smiled before his mouth did. He asked her about her business with genuine interest, listened when she spoke about Chisom with the attention of someone who understood that loving a woman meant loving all of her, including her past and her responsibilities. They became friends first. He didn't rush her, didn't pressure her, didn't try to fix her or save her. He simply showed up consistently, honestly, respectfully. He brought Chisom books and asked Amara about her day and meant it when he said he admired her strength. When he finally asked her to dinner, she said yes. When he asked to meet Chisom properly, she said yes. When, a year later, he asked her to marry him, she said yes. But this time, she said yes with her eyes wide open, with her worth intact, with the knowledge that she was choosing love, not settling for it. Their wedding was a joyful celebration, full of family and friends who had watched Amara's journey and celebrated her transformation. Her mother cried happy tears. Ngozi was her maid of honor. Chisom, now 5 years old, carried the rings with serious concentration, then ran into her mother's arms whispering, "I love you, Mama." As for Tunde, Amara heard through the small city grapevine that he was still struggling, still bouncing between jobs and relationships, still trying to find solid ground. She felt no satisfaction in his downfall, no vindication. She simply felt nothing, the blessed neutrality that comes when someone no longer has power over your peace. Some people asked if she felt guilty for refusing him. "Shouldn't you have given him another chance?" they said. "Isn't that what forgiveness is?" And Amara would smile and say, "I did forgive him. Forgiveness means I no longer carry the poison of what he did to me. It doesn't mean I have to drink tea with the person who poisoned me in the first place." Years later, when Chisom was older and asked about her father, Amara told her the truth, age appropriate but honest. "Your father made choices that hurt people, including himself. I made choices to protect us and build a better life. We both had to live with those choices." "Are you happy, Mama?" Chisom asked. Amara looked around her home, filled with love, laughter, respect, partnership. She looked at her thriving business, her strong body, her peaceful spirit. She looked at her daughter, growing up with the knowledge that she was worthy of love that honored her, respected her, celebrated her. "Yes, my darling," Amara said, pulling her daughter close. "I am very happy, and more importantly, I am free." The moral: when someone shows you who they are, believe them. The red flags you ignore in the beginning will become the chains you wear at the end. But no matter how long you've worn those chains, it's never too late to take them off. Your worth is not determined by someone else's ability to see it. You can rebuild, restart, and rise again. And when you do, make sure you are building on the foundation of your own strength, not on the approval of those who diminished you. True love doesn't require you to shrink yourself, to suffer in silence, or to earn basic respect. It meets you as an equal, celebrates you in all your seasons, and grows with you rather than off you. And remember, saying no to what diminishes you is how you say yes to what liberates you.